Hey, good morning. It's Michelle. I thought I'd hop on this morning and just have a quick little message for you guys. I'm getting ready to head to a booth, so it's going to be really quick because technically my event starts right now, but it's like super casual, so it's an ongoing consignment sale. If you guys saw my video from yesterday. Now, I wanted to hop on. I'll just start because I know a lot of you watch this recording, but I hope you watch it because I want to talk about the changes in the presenter agreement and how that affects our business and how to work with that. And I'm going to move. This lighting is like funky. Oh, that's a little bit better. Okay. Ah, a little bit better. I'm going to do my makeup at the event, so that's why I look like I do. Okay, so yesterday there was an announcement about changes in the presenter agreement. I wanted to go over the few changes that I know about. I have not compared side by side, and in the leader group we did ask if there was a summary of what's changed, what hasn't changed, so we don't have to do a comparison side by side. So we might have some more information to come, but this is nothing to freak out about. So before I go into the changes of the presenter agreement, I wanted to just talk about change and things that happen in our business and things that we can't control. So there's a book I read, gosh, oh my gosh, I feel so old, 15 years ago. When I was in high school and I was working as a synchronized swimming coach and water instructor. So for the city of Mesa in Arizona. And they gave each of us a book and they asked us to read it. And it was probably my very first, oh, maybe not my very first. I think I read books from Stephen Covey, leadership, time management, that stuff in high school. But this was from somewhere outside of school, first book. And it was called Who Moved My Cheese? And it was a story, if you guys haven't read it, it's a quick read. It's very quick. It's a short little book. And it's a story about two mice and how one, if I recall correctly, how they responded to scientists doing that maze test where you put cheese in different spots. So it was how the mice responded to a scientist, moving a piece of cheese from one place to the next. And basically, at the beginning, the cheese was always in the same spot and the mice got used to it and happy, yay. And then the cheese was moved and the mice reacted differently to it. It's not a true story, you guys. It's a fiction. So the mice are talking or whatever. One mouse was furious. Why did they move the cheese and just negative and just couldn't deal with it? The other mice simply adapted and still got the cheese. So anytime we have change, and we will have change because change is what? The one thing that's constant. So if you came into any company, any business, any hobby, any whatever job, and you expected everything to stay the same, any marriage, any relationship, it's just not going to happen. Okay? Change is the one thing that's constant. And change is not positive or negative. It just is. And it's all how we react to it. Okay? So that's how everything is in life. It's all how you react to things. So let's go into the changes that I've noticed in the presenter agreement. None of them are a big deal, but I just want to talk about it and tell you my opinion and my take on it and give you some suggestions on how to move forward with these little changes. So I noticed 3 things that were tweaked or adapted in the presenter agreement. Again, I haven't gone side by side. I don't necessarily encourage you to go side by side, but it's always a good idea to read the presenter agreement and know. If you have never read the presenter agreement, you want to read it because it tells you how to do your business. And it tells you what is within compliance and what's not. Now, one thing about Younique is we are very by the book, I will say, compared to maybe some other direct sales companies. So if you're saying to yourself, well, my other direct sales company didn't do that. For example, income claims, we are not allowed to do income claims. It's to protect the company. There's actually been companies that have been shut down by the FTC that are doing income claims. So when you see another company that's I made $1 million or I'm a 6-figure earner or whatever, and you're why can't we say that? Well, it's because we're trying to protect the company. So we are more conservative on that end. Just to put that out there. Okay, so let me get to the changes. So the 3 that I noticed, number 1 talked about returns and products. This is not anything new. It was just more clearly stated out that if you have a customer that returns a product, that percentage of your commission that you earned will be deducted. Makes sense, right? You have someone return a product, that's going to go back, your commission's going to be taken out. That's already been happening. It's just a little bit more clear in the presenter agreement. Now again, Younique has a presenter agreement to protect them legally. Do they always act on everything on the presenter agreement? No. So there might be things that, you know, get refunded that you don't notice your commission taken out. I'm not guaranteeing that, but so the wisdom for this, and the wisdom that I always tell people, is if you are working toward like a certain promotion or rank, let's say pink status, and you are, that's pretty standard with any company, to be honest, because you know, company gets money back, they got to take the money out from somewhere. But the wisdom here, knowing that, is that let's say you want to hit pink status and you end the month at exactly 2001 company wholesale. Whether that was in place or not with a company, I would tell you that's not a wise move, because you never know what's going to happen between the 1st and the 8th of the month when they go back and they adjust things. You never know if one of your customers got on 3 hours after she placed the order at midnight and canceled it. Okay, don't leave it up to chance or that close. So I always suggest, no matter what, you know, if you're working to hit green or recall at green, you should never end the month at 500 PRS. It should always be 600 or more, just to give yourself leeway, at least 550, which that's the minimum. So if you're hitting pink, don't end the month at 250, because what if one of your customers returns something? So anyways, just give yourself that little bit of space. That's just wisdom in working your business, that you're not, you know, if you're hitting green, don't end the month at 10,002 company wholesales and then cross your fingers that nothing's going to happen. No, you end the month at 11,000 company wholesales, okay? Give yourself some space. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, again, this is nothing new, just a little bit more clear in the presenter agreement, but if you are an elite status or above, you're not allowed to advertise another direct sales company that you're doing on your social media accounts that you're also advertising Younique. It's nothing new, just the wording changed a little bit. Okay, that doesn't mean you can't belong to another company for like the discount. For example, I have joined 31 twice to get the kit, but I don't sell it. I just like the products and I use them for my Younique stuff. But I don't promote the products on my Younique account. Okay, so there's no conflict there. If you join a company and no one knows you that you joined, not going to be a problem, okay? You are not allowed to promote two companies that have similar products, so skincare, cosmetics, anything like that. And you have to contact support to make sure that's okay. If you're not elite and above. Okay, so below elite, you can do two different companies, but they cannot conflict at all. So 31 does not conflict with skincare, but it works, does. So just be aware of that. Okay, and then the last thing that I know some of you have been talking about yesterday and this morning is samples. So flashback about maybe more than 6 months ago, maybe almost a year ago. Okay, maybe not quite a year ago. We had a leader call, and Brandon, I believe it was Brandon, who's kind of the head of compliance and stuff, told us that Younique highly, highly, highly discouraged presenters creating their own samples. It wasn't in the presenter agreement, so they couldn't come out and say, you're not allowed to make samples. They said, we highly, highly, highly discourage it because it's basically against the FDA. And here's why. Here's the problem with making homemade samples. And I am not saying that I have condoned homemade samples in the past, because we didn't have samples to purchase. So this is kind of like, okay, from here on out, all right? But here's the problem with homemade samples is I actually was looking up the law and regulations of cosmetics for the FDA, and I'm looking at my computer too right now. Some of the laws is that it has to be packaged, it has to be labeled, it has to be packaged sanitary. They have to make sure that nothing else got in the product. So the problem with homemade samples is there is no way to ensure that the product is clean, that you didn't contaminate it, that your hands were washed, that your area was clean, that the product is labeled correctly, not just with the name of the product, but the ounces, the ingredients that are inside of the product, where it was manufactured. All that information is not there for you to do. So it's not Younique saying, well, you're not allowed to do this. They're trying to help you be in regulations with the FDA, which is saying you need to have things labeled. Now, again, I have done samples in the past, and I'll talk about the benefit or, non-benefit of samples in just a second. But I totally see the point. And actually, I was talking with one of our leaders. You know, I have 2 kids with very severe allergies. One has been taken to the ER with an anaphylactic reaction to an almond. And I was thinking the other day, you know, what if somebody was making a sample and they're just casually, you know, snacking on like peanuts or cashews or something on the side. They're not washing their hands. They're packaging things, you know, because not everyone thinks about that. And then somebody that has a severe allergy is opening it up. Like, you, obviously that's an extreme case, but you can see my point that we are not professional packers, and so we're putting things together. Anyways, so that's the reasoning by the sampling, okay? Now, obviously, Younique has samples. They have samples in the presenter kits. They did have them available for sale again. Are they going to have them for sale again in the future? I don't know for sure. And I don't want to hear a bunch of, what? Because let me explain a little bit, okay? I totally understand. Like, I see both sides. So I'm not like, I'm not coming up here to lecture anybody, okay? I totally understand the desire to have samples. I get it. You know, you want to thank your customers for purchasing, so you put a little sample in there so they can experience some of the other products. I have done that. You know, maybe give out samples to prospective people, maybe especially like other countries where they cannot purchase the products. I get it. I have done that. But I will tell you that I have not noticed that that always leads to future sales. And sometimes, like the homemade samples, especially, do not give a very good impression. I created a bunch of samples and sent them to France, which I think there's a whole other cultural issue there too. I don't think France thinks highly of the US anyway, so I was already on like the downside, but I could be wrong about that. I've never been to France. I sent samples and they were not professional samples because I didn't have any. And I think I had people respond to me very negatively about that. So that's part of the issue with the homemade samples. They just don't look very professional, other than the sanitary part. But I will say, even with handing out samples, you know, I've given pigment samples and cream shadow samples to past customers, and they do not always end up in sales. I sent even the professional samples. These are professional pigment samples, and I sent a friend of mine, you know, foundation samples. She didn't purchase some foundation. So a sample does not necessarily mean that somebody will become a customer. Okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that. And we have a really great, you know, love it guarantee that people can purchase a product, use it, and if they don't like it, they can return it. So sometimes instead of spending all that time and energy, you know, creating samples or putting together samples or purchasing samples, you can be putting that time into getting more parties, you know, following up with customers and things like that. Now, corporate has let us know on our Black Status call that they are considering samples. So this is not like they're not going to do samples, okay? I don't know what they're going to do. They're actually looking to kind of test things out by possibly putting random samples into orders and seeing what the results are. Seeing if it does drive repeat customer business. I think what I see with the corporate team is they really want to make sure that they are encouraging activity that is productive and that is income producing. So if samples do not work as far as driving more traffic, then what is the point of having samples? You know, if it does work in driving traffic, then they're totally open to having that for us as a resource. So it's more that they want to be cautious about making sure that it's something that is beneficial to us. You know, if we have a brand new presenter that joins and we say, yeah, you need to have samples, go spend all this money buying samples, and it's not the most productive way for her to spend her business, is that going to, you know, is that going to work? So they're looking at it, and I can't read corporate's mind. I don't know if on October 21st, when this presenter agreement goes into effect, there are going to be samples all in the store. So sometimes we kind of jump the gun and we get a little anxious and excited about it when we have no idea what's coming in the future. So everyone take a deep breath. If you're like, I need samples, okay? Because obviously Younique has the ability to make samples. They've made lip stain samples, skincare samples, foundation samples. So it's just a matter of, is this beneficial to presenters? And if you feel like this is beneficial to your business, then what I would suggest is you contact support and you tell them your experience with samples. And you can say, hey, you know, I would really love to have samples in the back office. I noticed the presenter agreement says we can't make our own. I've had really good success with samples. Here's what's happened. Here's how I use samples. You know, send that into support and let them know how it's benefiting your business, because they can't read our minds. They're going to test it on their end, but they don't know, how you use it, how you are using samples, and how you feel like you would benefit from samples. So that's kind of what I want to get on here this morning, is let you know this. And last thing I want to say is, again, samples are not like the end all. I purchased a product online from a beauty place. I can't remember what it was, but they sent me samples. They sent me 2 samples and professional packets. I purchased something from a friend of mine that does Posh. She sent me a sample. That was like 2-3 months ago. I haven't used any of them. So not everybody opens the samples and uses them, because it's not something that they were personally invested in to purchase. I didn't request those samples, so they're just kind of like extra products, and I haven't had time to, or the increase, desire to use them. The other thing about samples too is, I went online and purchased, this was before our skincare came out, I went and purchased like a deep night cream to use because we didn't have one, and I didn't try it before. I didn't try a sample. I read reviews, I listened to what other people said about the product, and I purchased it simply off of that. So because so much of our marketing is social media, people will buy without sampling. They buy on what they see and what other people say and the reviews that people get. They buy off of looks and results. So for example, like the cream shadow, somebody will buy it because they see what it looks like, or they see a video of you applying it, and they get a really good idea of what it looks like. And people are getting a lot more comfortable purchasing online, just like with clothes. People will buy clothes without ever trying it on, seeing the fabric, anything like that. So I'm not saying that Younique is not going to offer samples in the future. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that samples cannot be beneficial for your business at all. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is this is just a change. And you can look at it and be like, well, that's going to ruin my business, which it's not. Okay? Or you can look at it and be like, okay, great. That's easy. You know what? That's one less thing I have to do, is do samples, because it takes work. Honestly, it takes a lot of work and time to put together samples. And I'm honestly glad that we're not allowed to do it, because it takes a lot of time and it doesn't guarantee any sales. So I'd like you to put your time and energy into getting in front of people with products. And sometimes, one last point, and then I'll get off my little soapbox here, because I know you guys don't like to hear like a lecture or anything like that. But one last thought is that sometimes people don't see results, especially with the skincare, with just the little samples. I mean, I got the samples from corporate, from convention, and they were like 2 uses. That did not really sell me on the skincare. I do think the mask was a great one, but the other skincare, it takes weeks to see a change in your skin. So, if you're giving people samples of the expensive samples of the Instant Lift Serum, and they don't see results in that first time, it's something that, we have people posting, which I think is really smart. Jessica Perezik, I always say your last name wrong. She started using it on half of her face. And then she took a picture like a month later, and she's like, holy cow, can you see the difference between my face? That's a month, or maybe it was 2 weeks. Anyways, she's been using it consistently, so it wasn't just, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. So the skincare is something that people will get more benefit of using it for a week, 10 days, 14 days, and having that money back guarantee that, hey, if you don't love it, we can return it, which is going to be less than, doing samples. Another point somebody made is if you use samples as a way to thank your customers or kind of gift them something extra, take the money you would have spent mailing those samples out, because it usually costs like $2 unless you have them in like a little bag. But if they're thick, it costs you like $2 to $3 to mail a sample out. Give them a discount off the shipping. Say, I don't have samples of the product, but instead, if you're to try it, we'll put your shipping down to $1 or $2 instead of $5.50, and there's money back guarantee, all that kind of stuff. Not all products have a money back guarantee like we do. So anyways, just some points I want you guys to think about. I never have a problem with discussing things or talking about it. I understand that some of you might feel a little frustrated about the sampling, but I encourage you to look at it in a positive way and just consider it just moving the cheese to another location. You just got to change up a few things, but it doesn't have to disrupt your business at all. Okay. Oh, we should do like a, everyone breathe in, everyone breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Don't you all feel better now? It's so calm. Yes, calm. Okay. Felice said discount if they're ordering off your website. You know, if they're ordering off your website, you probably weren't in a lot of well, you might have been in a lot of contact with them. I don't know. Work something out with them. I usually don't do that if they order off the website. I usually don't do discounts. So you guys send something else. Send like, send something else in the mail. Send a little spatula, send a little candy bar, send something else as a thank you, you know? I got some super cute bags. There's a website called missa.com. I'll double check. But I got these cute little makeup bags for $1, and they're skinny. So I can stick them in an envelope and mail them for like $1. And that could be my thank you. You know, I know it's not going to help them try another unique product, but it's going to make them feel appreciated. So you guys can think outside the box. I know you're super smart and creative and resourceful. So I got to run because I'm so totally late to my event. But I didn't want to do this while I was driving because I don't think that's really safe. So hopefully this helps you guys. If you have any questions at all about samples, let me know. And like I said, it might be coming in the future. We just don't know. So we're just going to run with it as we go. Felicia asks, is it possible for them to set up the payment screen accept multiple times payment? You know, they've actually thought about that, but they don't have that in place yet. But that has been a suggestion. If you want to suggest that to support, you can. If I have an issue where I'm trying to give someone a discount, I just take it through PayPal. And that's just super easy. Then I have to pay a certain amount. Would having an entire bottle of foundation for color matching be considered sampling? No, because you have the ingredients and the labeling on the back, and it was professionally packaged, you know, in a commercial place. So like if you're having your, you know, a full bottle of foundation and you're sampling to one person, you know, as long as you're not contaminating that by like touching their skin and stuff, then you're good. PayPal and order for them. Yep. All right. I will see you guys all later. Normally we have a call in the afternoon. I'm sorry, I keep saying I'm gonna be so consistent. I'm gonna be so consistent. I appreciate all of you guys like understanding. I'm doing an event all week this week, and I have not. So I will try to get something together for tomorrow for you guys instead of today. What I'd like to do is have a guest on. So, but I haven't had time to ask somebody to hop on to share some words of wisdom with you. But if you didn't get a chance, go back and listen to Crystal Smart's training call on YouTube and how it's really helped her business. It's really helped her business boom. So she knows what she's talking about. All right. Have a wonderful day, you guys. Bye.